It's episode 14 of The Boost with my guest, Charlie Hodson from CPH Associates. Let's go. All right, welcome to The Boost, conversations with people promoting mental health. I'm your host, Steve Turney, and I'm delighted to be here with Charlie Hodson. Charlie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you, Steve? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Having a good day. Yeah, can't complain, and excited to be talking with you. There's a lot to learn, and we're gonna get right into it. And we'll let you do sort of your own introduction. It always comes best from the expert, but we always start with two questions. So we'll just jump right in. It's the virtual hug and the shameless plug. So the virtual hug is, Charlie, tell me somebody or something you're grateful for today.
Yeah, thank you very much. For my virtual hug, in lieu of the 4th of July holiday coming up, I'm gonna go ahead and say I'm thankful for family and getting together and being able to relax and take some time off because, as you know, mental health, it's very important to relax and have some time to yourself. So I'm very thankful to have a break and go hang out with some family to recharge for a bit.
Awesome. Now you're up in Chicagoland area, right?
Yep, smoky Chicagoland right now.
Yeah, right now. Yeah, air quality. Stay indoors with the filters. Are you staying in town for the 4th? Are you getting out of town? What's the plan there?
Yeah, I'm going up to my in-laws. They have a little cottage in Port Huron is the name of the town. It's right on Lake Huron, and just gonna hang out by the beach and do very, very little. So that's my plan for the 4th. Lots of barbecuing and golfing and sitting by the lake. How about
Nice,
yourself?
nice. I'm staying close to home, but I have a colleague, Danielle, who is in Nashville, and then for the summer, for part of the summer, she heads up to Minnesota, and I know that's a different that's a different part of the country than you are, but it's north of here, and we do these Zoom calls or Google Meet calls, and she's always like, in her sort of cabin, lake cabin, and I'm always a little bit jealous when I when I talk with her from my home office here north of Nashville, and she's out by the lake.
Yeah, what's the deal with that? We need to get up there. We'll have to have a meeting up there by our lake house. Bombard
Ooh,
her.
let's do it. Let's do it. Okay. I'm going to note that. We're going to make that happen. That'll be a lot of fun. Well, that's a great virtual hug. Your family and some time to rest and relax. We do need breaks for our own sake of mind, our own mental health, and our productivity. My brother is a Formula One fanatic, and he always says, race cars have brakes so they go faster, and that's what it's about, especially when you're navigating change and you're hitting the corners. You can't just be pedal to the metal all the time. You can't be full throttle. You'll just run through the wall. So life is like that. I think it's more of a road race than a drag strip. But let's get into the shameless plug. So this is the opportunity for you to introduce yourself as only you can, talk about CPH insurance, what you all are doing, what you're doing well or different, and the value prop. Feel free to brag a little bit, and this is the shameless plug. So give us some information about you and your work.
Yeah, totally. So CPH Insurance was founded in 2001. CPH stands for Charles Philip Hodson. That's actually my father's name. It's also my name as well. So we're a small family business here. I remember when we first started, he had me working when I was 12 years old for White Sox tickets on the ground, folding envelopes for mass mailings. So this has really been, apart from going to school, my whole life has been CPH and liability insurance. And our niche is in the mental health space. So we insure anybody from your nurse practitioners, a psychologist, mental health counselor, social worker, marriage and family therapist. That's sort of been our niche. And what makes us different from the other providers out there is, number one, our technology. Insurance is a little bit slow to adapt to the technology world. So we've been able to implement a platform where it makes the application process super easy. You can be in and out with your proof of coverage in 5 minutes when you go through our online platform to apply for a policy. And really, we've just been sort of doing organic growth, working with people like you and associations in the mental health space to help our business grow. To date, we have about 220,000 insureds in the mental health space. So we're always looking to grow and love helping people like you and talking with knowledgeable people like you that know the field. So that's sort of us in a nutshell. And we're always looking to talk to people that are interested in mental health stuff.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm a big fan of swinging our little spotlight on you, however we can. I run this conference, the Mental Health Marketing Conference. I think you're going to get the chance, hopefully, to come down and hang out with this community of people, and that's a great group. But you're from Chicago, which is a big sports town, and one of my favorite 100 sayings, maybe I don't have an exact quote or count, but it's that defense wins championships. And while insurance and things like finance and banking and healthcare are slow to adopt some technology sometimes, there's a reason for that. And insurance is incredibly sophisticated in some ways, in terms of reducing those unknown variables and those low frequency but high impact events that can really tip the boat a little bit. So talk about specifically in this industry how you're helping mental health professionals. If we can just use that kind of, if I can use that umbrella term, including licensed professional, everybody that you work with. But how are you helping them uniquely? Why did you focus on that industry, and what do you bring that's kind of unique to their situation?
Yeah, so if you don't mind with the shameless plug, I'll go right into what I think our best benefit is to our providers. And a lot of our other competitors don't utilize this, so I've heard. But if you're an insured of ours, we actually have what's called an attorney helpline. So let's say you're in a session and there's a question that comes up that you're really not too sure about, because we're all about mitigating risk, right? That's the liability insurance. We want to make sure that we're helping our client make the best decisions for them, because as of course they want to avoid a lawsuit, we want them to avoid a lawsuit as well, because we're working with them. But what we have is what's called an attorney helpline. So if you ever have a question, we offer 2 hours of free attorney consultation services throughout the year. So let's say what your client has like a request for records and you've never had that before and you sort of want to know what to do with something like that, you can give us a call. And we have live customer service agents between 8:30 and 5 Central Time that you can give us a call and you'll actually talk to a real human being. It's not going to be like you're calling your cable company and you got to go through all these dial tones. We're here for you. And what's really important is the customer experience for us. So between our platform and our technology and our customer service, that's really what sets us apart, because we really want to talk to our clients.
Yeah, and I think in an industry like this, um, the ability to adopt tech, the right kind of tech. You don't need to overbuild, over manufacture something, and combine that with high quality service and customer service. That is the magic quadrant. I think a lot of businesses live in the no tech or low tech and low customer support. We see some companies like, the the phone queues you fall into sometimes, that have adopted high tech AI driven phone queues, but low customer service. So to be able to be in that niche where you can provide the best of both, personally feels like the way to provide a premium service to the people that you're working with.
Absolutely. And we learn stuff from our clients all the time. So I think that the ability to have a call center that we're going to respond to you right away when you call, we're learning as well every time that we're on the phone. And obviously, we want to help our clients as well. So it's a nice give and take partnership there that we learn from them and they learn from us. So we're all trying to work together to get the common goal to make sure that everybody's protected adequately.
Yeah, that's one of the benefits of working in an industry, picking a niche, sort of. You get the benefit of drilling deep into the industry so that there aren't a lot of surprises. But then when you do find a surprise or you learn something new, you oftentimes have a bedrock of information that you can provide as context. So it's not like you're probably getting caught too many times out over your skis. It's more or less the process in life, which is things are always changing. So you're always learning, you're always adapting. There's never any kind of homeostasis that doesn't have some ebb and flow to it. So that I've seen that in different industries, and even in the mental health space, there are providers that have an affinity toward a certain sort of demographic or a certain situation or challenge or mental illness that they are just excellently equipped to deal with. And so why not drill into that and sort of provide those solutions?
Yeah, absolutely. We take client feedback seriously. So um, we take about, I think I was just looking at this morning, we take about 300 phone calls a day. And at the end of the day, we all sort of talk together as a group and decide what's working, what's not, what are we hearing from our clients. So it really is important to have that touch factor with your client base. And like you said, we don't want to have a big phone queue where everyone's waiting, and by the time you get on the phone to talk to somebody, it's a half hour later, and that's not fun for anybody. So yeah, it's really a partnership that we're working together.
That's a healthy volume of calls. So I want to get into a couple things on my mind. One is how have you all grown? What are the traction points? What have you tried over the years in terms of marketing and growth and business development? And maybe highlight a couple of those things that have really worked for you. And let's start there.
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually got our start. My father was able to convince three large mental health associations to come over when he was starting his own business back in 2001. So really what drives our business is our affinity partnerships with associations. For example, the American Association of Marriage and Family Therapists, for an
Sure.
example, that's a large partner of ours. So really we've been able to work with associations hand in hand, and we market our products through them. That's been really great for us to help us grow. And it's such a niche industry. We only have maybe 4 or 5 other people in our field because it's so small, for lack of a better term. So there's enough for it to go around for sure, but the partnerships with the associations really has helped drive our business, along with schools as well. Getting in on the ground floor with students is, because, as you know, insurance isn't the most exciting thing in the entire world. Once you
Mm-hmm.
have an insurance policy, sure, you're going to go out and shop it a little bit, but usually, if my professor says, "Yeah, you should get this," or a CPH, they're great. Sort of how that works. And then lastly, doing stuff like this, doing media marketing. Love to do webinars. Love to help in any way we can to boost our name out there, and then is for you as well. It's nice to talk to somebody that knows the field and help push the CPH name for us. So those are kind of the strategies that have worked for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's sort of like for me, it's the way that the teacher sometimes learns more than the student in some cases. So it's been fascinating. This is episode 14, and to be able to talk with people like you and people in the industry in various verticals and niches and different focus of their business, I learned so much from the guests. And it's just as exciting to think, this is going to maybe be something you share out in your next email marketing blast or your social posts. And so, I came into this really selflessly and a without even a business plan behind this concept of doing a podcast, other than I know there's a halo effect that's bound to happen when you take the time to put experts in the spotlight and just give. So that was the strategy: is how can I give some of the connection to this community that we've formed, and it's a small, you're right, it's a small industry. So it's kind of a small world, and then we niche way down into the mental health space and behavioral health, and you just can't go wrong taking good care of people in that kind of space, and seeing that my own tribe, my own connections that are almost effortless, like the way we got introduced. It seems like it just falls out of the sky more often now, and there's less force to be had because you're a known and trusted name and voice in the industry. And that's probably how it is for you. People know CPH, and it's like they'll talk to you either sooner or later.
Yep, exactly. And it's been great. Unfortunately, we went through the pandemic where everything seemed to shut down for a while, but it seems like within the last 6 months, everything has really picked up and people are out there and wanting to talk to people again. So that's been really great after a pretty slow, rough stretch for all of us.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I can relate in the live event space. I can definitely relate. Um, so I've worked for a family business before. Talk about the dynamics of a family business, and not not to get too personal, but it just seems like it has its own dynamics. What's sort of your advice, or what's your read on working within a family business, and maybe some tips that you've learned to navigate those relationships, which family is complicated anyway sometimes, for a lot of people. Where does your mind go when you think about working at a family business?
Yeah, well, it definitely has its perks and cons for sure. But really, my biggest point that I've tried to do is really try to keep the family and the business stuff separate from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, when my father and I talk. And actually, my sister works at the company as well.
Okay.
We did have one of my cousins work for us as well. So we really are a small niche family. There's only 14 of us in the entire company as well. So doing the math, about 20% of our staff is family. So the big thing for me is really trying to keep things, for lack of a better phrase, separate church and state, where family time is family time and work time is work time, and try not to blend it too much together, just because when you're at home barbecuing on a Sunday, don't need to get into an argument with the old man about the work stuff.
Yeah, yeah, I like that strategy of bracketing, where I've got my family life and my personal life, and trying to keep that separate from work life in terms of where I'm placing my focus. So when I'm in work, I'm largely in work mode, and of course I bring, I come up for air once in a while, and all of that. And then when I'm in family mode, it's time to put away the phone, and just focus on things other than email and tasks. And it's kind of Parkinson's law, which is the work gets done in the time allowed. So you can take that two different ways. One is that, to bracket it within the confines of certain working hours. I just find I'm very productive, and I can focus within those hours. It's like my mind knows I can zoom in and I can work deep, and I know the start and end of that. And then, you can also let that bleed out. Like Parkinson's law can be sort of a negative thing. Like if you allow work into every hour of your day, the work is gonna at sometimes spread out to fill that time. So it's sort of an intentional thing, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And with the topic today being mental health, it's important, I think, for everybody's mental health to be able to, especially in a family business when there's always stuff going on with families, right? That's important to separate
Yeah.
the business from the personal stuff. So I think you hit the nail on the head with that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, you're promoting mental health by helping the industry succeed and mitigate and avoid risk. And we all pay insurance premiums, and I'm happy to pay an insurance premium. Of course, I'm looking for a good value for the cost, but you almost can't have too much insurance. And a premium is simply, the price tag of mitigation against risk. So I applaud that. Coming back to you, and sort of mental health, what are sort of some of the what's sort of how's your sort of maybe attitude or approach to your own mental health been evolving over the past years? Because you've been with CPH for a while, and you've seen the industry evolve, and that gives you a lot of exposure to sort of how the industry is changing. You're really in the weeds sometimes, probably talking about updates to the industry, and that's got to impact your own personal life. But what are you doing to kind of care for yourself, and how are you thinking about your own mental health these days?
Yeah, well, it's very important to me to take breaks during the day because, as most of us are, we're staring at a computer screen all day. So I make it a point a couple times during the day to just get outside and take a walk. I always like to say all of us need food, water, exercise, and sunlight. So
Mm.
I make it a point to get outside, especially when we can in Chicago. We only have about 4 months out of the year to do so. That to make sure I can get outside and just sort of walk, do some mindfulness walking, as my therapist says, to get outside and just sort of get your head out of the computer screen and just sort of do mindfulness walking. That's honestly what I do. I'll
Mm.
probably do that after this phone call.
Yeah, you'll probably need it after this phone call. No, that I don't know all the science behind walking, but that comes up so often in these conversations and in just generally in conversations. And I love a good morning walk.
Mhm.
It is like a mindfulness, almost a meditative state, and certainly like clears the head and fills the lungs, with fresh air most days, and just kind of come back ready to start. And it's almost like it's some kind of cadence in our life where we can step away and transition between one thing or the other with a walk. It's like it hits the reset button for us.
Absolutely, yeah. The recharging is absolutely what I need. I definitely don't need it after a phone call with you, but there's definitely some calls like, oh man, I need to get
Yeah,
outside.
yeah, yeah, get outside. Yeah. Well, yeah, and plus the sunshine, and I love Chicago. I love Chicago in the fall, actually, as well. It's starting to get cold. I don't mind that. I need to get my family up there. So next time I'm up there, we'll give you a shout, and we can go grab some great food. There's no shortage of amazing restaurants in Chicago, from the hole in the wall to the 5-star dining, and everything in between. But have you ever thought about moving out of Chicago? Or are you there to stay? What do you like about the town?
I'm born and raised in Chicago. Every year around March or April, I start getting antsy because uh, November through May here is pretty much a grind. Windy City gets its name for a reason. It's windy, it's cold, and every March or April, I'm like, I'm ready to get out of here. And then May hits, and I'm
Oh,
biased, but it's my favorite city in the world when it comes to summer. There's always things to do. I was just walking down on the Michigan Magnificent Mile yesterday, actually, and they're setting up a NASCAR race in downtown Grant Park where Lal Blues is going to be. And there's just always stuff going on. Last week was a big pride parade up by Wrigley. The
yeah.
Grateful Dead were just in town. There's just so many things to do. And as you said, it's a great eating town as well. So it's hard to keep your summer figure with all the good food around.
Yeah. Yeah. The music festivals, the museums, the art scene. You can get out on the pier, you can go shopping. There's no shortage of things to do. I've always had fun there, restaurants and bars and all the rest.
Yeah,
So plus,
shameless plug. It's not as bad as the news is showing right now. There's a
okay.
lot of good things to have happening in Chicago right now.
Good. Yeah. Plus, it's just such. I mean, I could do the drive in a number of hours, but it's like a 60-minute flight. It's so easy to get there, and public transportation. So anyway, now we're shamelessly plugging Chicago generally, which is a good thing to do.
Come on and visit me, whoever's listening.
Awesome. Well, Charlie, thanks for being on the show. Before we wrap, I wanted to ask you one closing question, which I typically ask. Sometimes I forget, but I'm remembering with you, which is tell us something you're reading or listening to. It could be a new record album. It could be a book or audio book. It could be really anything you want. But what's one thing that you've been taking in recently that you think we need to hear about?
Yeah, it's actually a interesting question, and it's pertinent for what we're talking about today. I'm reading this book right now called The Psychology of Money, and it's basically how all of these sort of either startups or big companies now have sort of got their start and how money sort of changed these companies. And I just read a chapter about Bill Gates. And when he was going to high school in Seattle in the 80s or 90s, whenever it was, he was one of the only high schools in the entire country that had a computer. So there you go. It makes sense how he started Microsoft if it started on the ground level. And I just thought that was very interesting. But The Psychology of Money is what I'm reading right now. And it's very interesting to see the positives and also the negatives that money can do to your brain.
The kind of the hooks and the emotional ties. I've read that book, and I mean, 12, 10. I would recommend that book to anybody. It changed my perspective on how I think about money. Actually, you mentioning it makes me want to go back and reread that because it was so powerful. So I'm glad you mentioned that, and hope you enjoy several reads of that because it's a deep book for how easy it is to read. He's I'm forgetting the author's name, but such a well written book and so reduced to incredible insights.
Yeah, and I'm always interested in learning. I'm a very curious person, so that's another thing that helps my mental health is reading a book every day. Even if it's just a couple pages, that goes a long way.
Yeah, you hear that, whether it's Warren Buffett or whoever, these people that you think don't have any time, they carve out time to read as part of their work. Like they look at it, reading for the afternoon is part of their work. And I love books. I've been in phases where I've been a tremendous reader, and then some phases where I can hardly pick up a book just because of life. But that's usually an excuse, and I should probably make more time for that. So, yeah, great reminder of how that can introduce us to new people and new perspectives.
Yeah, absolutely. And you also learn something because these guys are billionaires for a reason and they got to where they are for a reason. It's interesting to hear everybody's stories.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks again, Charlie. It's great to have you on the show. Thanks for taking the time out and lending your perspective on this industry to our viewers and our listeners. So thanks a bunch.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the time and look forward to seeing you down in the flesh in Franklin in September.
Sounds good. All right. See you then.
See ya.